She bought cardio salsa tapes for Michelle, which like the image that brings to mind is so good. Like, is that a gag gift? Or is it, does she mean it? Does she know that he actually does this? I don't know.
Hey there.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah. I've had a funny day or 2 or 3, but I'm okay. I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Yeah. It's always refreshing. So the last episode that we recorded was our Twilight episode, and now we're back to Gilmore Girls, and it's always kind of refreshing to go back to an episode of a show rather than a long movie to have to wrap your head around. And so I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited that we're back.
Yes. I was thrilled to finally get back to it because of where we left off last time.
That must have been hard for you.
Oh my God. I mean, if you were tuned in last time, we left on Rory and Lorelai having a big old fallout, and Emily. Everybody was yelling. Everyone was shouting. We ended unresolved. Rory stayed out all night with Dean. They fell asleep, and there's all this like assumptions and jumping to conclusions, and everyone's angry, and I hate it. So I need it to be resolved ASAP.
Yep. Yeah. So we are the Belladonna Watch Club. Come get cozy with us while we dig into iconic shows and movies that one of us has never seen before. So the rules are that somebody needs to be coming to the show with fresh eyes. So I'm Lisa, and I have seen the Gilmore Girls.
And I'm Jenny, and I'm the fresh eyes.
So this episode is season 1, episode 10, Forgiveness and Stuff. It's our first Christmas episode of Gilmore Girls. So extremely cozy, twinkly lights everywhere, very, very festive in Stars Hollow, which is why I brought out my Christmas tree again. It is February, and I was like, no. But if someone's coming to watch this in December because it's a Christmas episode of the show, like I felt obligated to be a little bit festive. And I'm wearing
of course,
festive reindeer earrings that are very hard to tell, but I couldn't go overboard. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. I couldn't go too far down this road again. But for anybody joining us in December, you're welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And so this episode, as Jenny, as you were saying, we left off on a very tense note. So people are still fighting. You can tell from the very beginning of the episode that Rory and Lorelai are still arguing. Emily and Lorelai are still arguing. Poor Lorelai's just getting it from all sides. Although, to be fair, she's the one who's angry with Rory. So she's getting it, she's giving it, and then she gets uninvited to Christmas dinner because of all of the tension and discomfort. And then she spends some time with Luke in this episode at the diner. But then the big thing in this episode is that Richard suffers a medical emergency at the Christmas party. And so then they end up at the hospital. And later half of the episode sort of is centered around what's going on with Richard and everybody else because of what happened. So what did you think?
I really appreciated this episode for a number of things. I don't think it's one that I could watch very often. There were some things that really, really got at me, but I admire it for how it went to the places of difficult emotions and not saying things. I really, really loved the performances of everybody in this. Everyone. They were really all just on it. And I cried. It made me cry.
Sure you did. I am certain it did. I was watching it and I was like, oh boy, this is going to be hard for Jenny to watch.
It was not the, happy resolution episode that I was hoping for, but I'm still really glad it exists, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So we start out at Miss Patty's, and they're preparing for the Christmas pageant. And the first thing is that Rory pulls out this baby Jesus doll that's missing an arm. So she's talking to Taylor and she's like, baby Jesus's arm is missing. The first thing gets under my skin is Taylor's like, let me see that. And looks at it as though she is somehow mistaken that the arm is gone. Taylor, what did you expect to find there? Come on, man. Rory's in the corner trying to figure out where baby Jesus's arm is, and Taylor's like, look again. And then Lorelai is doing the costume fittings for Kirk. Our dear friend Kirk has made a reappearance. And he's so nervous because Lorelai stuck him with a pin once, and he's just like so flinchy and squeamish. Are you happy to have Kirk back?
Yeah. Well, he's I don't know what to make of him yet. He has shown up in the least expected places. Just like I should never be surprised from now on to just like for him to just show up somewhere. Okay, all right. It's really clear in this scene that Lorelai and Rory have not made up yet.
It's tense.
They're exchanging glances, but that's about it. I like the things that are going on in the background. So amidst the like the mother-daughter tension thing and the unspoken whatever, there's still like silly things happening in the background and conversations and other people's to-the-minute drama. The details of the background actors are so good. The after Mary, as in the non-pregnant Mary, she's blowing on her nails, just done her nails or something, which what a great little detail. And the sort of side conversation happening in the scene, the humorous part, is apparently that before Mary is pregnant and oh my God, shock horror, we think she's going into labor right now. She's about to have a baby. And they discuss like, oh my gosh, we surely someone else in this town is knocked up. Who else in town is knocked up? Who else can we find? And like for that to be the side conversation going on while Lorelai and Rory have just had this whole thing of like, 16 and you stayed out all night with the boy and like, what situation did you get yourself into? And blah, blah, blah. You're going on the pill. And now we're talking about Mary and getting knocked up and like, oh my God. Just chaos.
I love it.
Chaos.
The line that Miss Patty says is the before Mary is about to become the after Mary.
That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I love it so much. And with the baby Jesus, there's the whole thing about how Rory's like, can't we just get a new doll? Like, what is this? So it sounds like this isn't the first time baby Jesus's arm has gone missing, because I think she says baby Jesus is missing his arm again or something along those lines. And then Taylor's like, this is the same baby Jesus that we've had since 1965. And Steve was like, yeah, you're proving her point. Get a new baby Jesus. Like, it's time.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah. And she says it's like it's a girl, like it has a bow, like it's not a baby Jesus, it's just some creepy doll. But yeah, I like your point about how I hadn't actually pieced that together, how the source of the tension is possibly, pregnancy and
right? Well, because they right after Miss Patty says who else in town is knocked up, we get like an out of context, but like we get a shot of Rory, who's looking all concerned. I'm like, no, let's not think about this. Let's move along.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. And then they do a scene on the outside. So, they're all leaving. And then Lorelai and Rory are walking, and they're like, it's a very terse conversation, like, because Lorelai overheard all of this. And so she was like, did you find the arm? Nope. Lorelai's trying to kind of have a semblance of normalcy. She's still upset, but she wants to like still connect with Rory. And Rory's like, not without an apology. Like, And Lorelai's still upset enough about the whole situation that she's not willing to do that yet, I don't think. But then they're walking, and then you see just this like collie, this border collie who just has the arm. How did nobody notice a dog coming in and taking the baby's arm? And then he's just standing in the square.
Yeah, you were looking for me?
Yeah, found it. So it's the following day, and Lane was supposed to meet with Rory at Luke's, and she missed it. So they're meeting up in the gazebo. They've confirmed our suspicions. Lorelai and Rory have not made up yet. They say it's been 4 days. So that gives us a little bit of context now for how long it's been since the big blowout. And she hasn't spoken to Dean. She hasn't spoken really to Lorelai. I really like when Rory says, well, I told Dean not to call. That's why we haven't spoken in 4 days. And Lane asks, like, well, did he listen? And Rory says, no, he didn't listen. Lane goes, good boy.
Good boy. Yes.
Good boy. But then at that point, Rory's like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, it's stressful. And she's like, no, I'm done. So they start talking about Rory showed up with some gift bags. And so she says that she bought Dean Metamorphosis, a book a Czechoslovakian book. Do you know about this one?
Well, when she said metamorphosis, I thought she was talking about the like ancient Greek author Ovid, who has a book called Metamorphosis, and instead it's Kafka. I have no, that is way beyond me. That is far too intellectual something. I don't know Kafka's Metamorphosis. But one of the other things she buys, she goes through a list of like, she bought this and this for Suki. She bought cardio salsa tapes for Michelle, which like the image that brings to mind is so good. Like, is that a gag gift? Or is it, does she mean it? Does she know that he actually does this? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm sure he actually does it. He's got tight little hips. He's got like his, he can do it. I actually liked the cow alarm clock that moves.
That's it, yes. Oh my God, she'd be over the moon about that. Cow jumping over the moon.
Are you a dad?
I am.
You're a dad. So Lane starts to question the book choice, which like I kind of see where she's coming from, because we've all gotten that gift that like the other person would have loved to receive, but is like not super for you. And so the analogy or the example that Lane brings to the table about these gifts, I have a clip here, and it is absolutely fantastic.
Remember 2 years ago, I got my mom that perfume?
Yeah.
Okay. To me, that said, hey, Mom, you work hard. You deserve something fancy. Now, to my mother, it said, hey, Mom, here's some smelly sex juice, the kind I used to lure boys with, and resulted in me being sent to Bible camp all summer.
Smelly sex juice. I can just imagine Mrs. Kim opening this gift. You're like, what is this? You give me smelly sex juice? Like,
yeah.
It's like her terse accent, and then be like, Mama, no, Merry Christmas. Like, Mama, no, you're going to Bible camp. Like,
I think Lane is she's trying and not being totally successful with trying to teach that it's about gifts sending messages. It's about what a gift says to the other person is what matters, not to you. And I think this is starting to sort of introduce like maybe one of the themes of this episode being forgiveness, and actions and gifts and whatever are not about the person doing it. It's about the receiver. And this actually reminded me, I'm going to get real deep here for a sec. It reminded me of a line from an early episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a really, really important one that Giles, her watcher, says. He's sort of like the father authority figure type thing for her. And he says, forgiveness is an act of compassion. It's not done because someone deserves it, but because they need it in order to learn, to move on, and to grow, and all that kind of thing. Which just, I mean, in such a silly little scene, and this is obviously, Lane doesn't say that line, but to introduce the concept of forgiveness and how you go about forgiving or beginning the path of forgiveness and moving on and moving forward and reparations and things is just, it's such a heavy topic. It's one that I think gets explored in different kinds of ways in TV and in film and stuff. But I really like seeing it here. And I mean, it's summed up in the title, isn't it? Forgiveness and stuff. There you go.
Yeah. In her analogies, she's like, okay, well, it's as though Dean would give you a football. Dean would love a football himself, but you giving him metamorphosis is giving him a Czechoslovakian football.
Yes.
That was amazing to tie it all in together. I thought that was fantastic, but it's totally true. It was like, oh, so-and-so would love this because like you love it, but is it really something that they want? And yeah, like you said, like you're even like the style of forgiveness, like some people don't need to necessarily hear the words when other people do need to hear the words. And some people understand that like actions are their version of forgiveness. Like, the olive branch of like bringing you a coffee or whatever, and yeah, everybody has their own styles, like the love languages thing, right? Where it's like your love language, the way you want to receive it isn't necessarily the way that the other person does. So from there, we quickly cut to the Independence Inn. And this is another scene where something pretty tense is happening with like an absolutely ridiculous like side moment, like kind of breaking the tension of the actual episode. So we get to the Independence Inn, they're getting ready for Christmas. They're putting up the Christmas tree, and Michelle is supervising this like maintenance man putting up the tree, and he just wants like a slight adjustment on this fairy ornament. He's like, she has a wand. And then the man goes to like adjust one. He's like, what is wrong with you? That's little Bo Peep. Like, he's giving absolutely, he's not budging. He's not moving a muscle. And he's there just like, nope, I'm the supervisor. I don't do this. This is not my job. This isn't my responsibility whatsoever, but you're doing it wrong. And I'm not going to help you. And he's just like, what's wrong with you? That's not a fairy. That's little Bo Peep. Are you an idiot?
There's so many like weird little scenes in this episode that are just seemingly have nothing to do with the whole story, but they must. And I've just been trying. I tried so hard to figure out like, what does that mean? What is there for? What's the connection there to the rest of the story? And I'm not sure if there are connections. I don't quite know.
So
maybe
I certainly feel that way about one scene, and we'll get there. But this one, I feel like it's important because they're setting up for Christmas. So I feel like
yes, yeah, fair. Yeah.
And so Lorelai gets a call from her mom, which she was surprised about because they are arguing. And so Emmeline's calling Lorelai to give her the information about dinner on Friday night. It's the Christmas party, so things are a little bit different. And I've got a small clip of the call here because it is infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Here we go.
Cocktails are at 6 o'clock, dinner is at 8.
I probably won't be there for cocktails.
Why not?
Because I have to work?
You can't leave work early?
No, I can't.
Why not?
Because it's not in my job description.
Well, then don't come.
What?
Don't come. This is obviously an enormous burden for you.
That is just like the most like narcissistic, passive aggressive, like, oh no, I will be there. I just can't be there at the exact time that you want me to. And suddenly it's like, oh, I'm such a burden and nothing, like everything revolves around you, doesn't it? It's like, it's my job. You don't work. Like I can't just leave.
I wonder, I don't know if that's Emily as always is, or if that's Emily at a particularly sore spot, like Emily in a particular fury, or if she's always like this. And I don't know what the word is for like that kind of behavior. You said narcissistic, and totally. It's like was she looking for a reason
I think she was.
to uninvite her? Yeah.
I think she was. So. I think she was just going to jump at the first hesitation, and then she could put it on Lorelai and be like, "Oh, well, she said she had to work, so too bad she's not coming. Oh, that's her thing. That's her choice." It's petulant and it's vindictive. It just gets under my skin because it's like it's not a reasonable response at all. And like you said, like she was totally just waiting for an opportunity to uninvite her. But the whole call, it's hurtful, intentionally hurtful. And I think that is how she is when she's upset. Like, I think it doesn't take very much to make her upset.
Right.
Like, because she's very regimented and everything is black and white with her. And I don't think it takes all that much to get her to that level of passive aggressive narcissism. It's narcissism because it's like, oh, everything that I do is wrong and everything that,
One of Emily's big things that we've seen so many times in the past is her sort of Loctite emphasis on control. And uninviting Lorelai is still a form of her controlling. Part of their argument the last episode was Emily says, I'm controlling. Well, clearly I couldn't control you going off and, getting pregnant and running away and stuff. Absolutely she's controlling. And absolutely she exists to control, and everything must be done in her way. She must exercise like minute control over everything. And this uninviting is yet another form of controlling. She wants the Christmas party to go exactly the way she wants it to be. So, and we'll see when we get to the Christmas party how, again, she is trying to stay fully in control of everything that happens and the tone and the atmosphere. And it's hard to watch.
Yeah. And then she goes ahead and says, Rory can still come. Rory's still invited. You're not. Like, we'll see Rory there. And Lorelai goes into this little tirade about how, in the 5th grade, she had the measles and her polka dots matched her dress. And she still had to come to Christmas dinner. Like, she was ill and had to come to Christmas dinner anyway. And she's like, this has never happened before. I don't understand. But Rory's still invited. And you can tell that Lorelai's actually pretty hurt by that. And almost any other Friday night dinner, I can imagine Lorelai being like, score, I'm out. Like, Rory, have fun. But this is Christmas and has like a whole other like gravity to the uninviting.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a lot more meaningful and impactful being uninvited to Christmas. So she's actually a little bit upset about that. So she goes home and it's Friday night and Rory is getting ready to go. And she's like, Mom, you're actually not coming. Like, what is that? I don't understand. And she is trying to convince Lorelai to like push a little bit. Like, no, Mom, like, I'm sure she'll want you there. Like, if you're not there, she didn't mean it, like she's just trying to convince Lorelai to come. And she says something along the lines of like, you just want to hold a grudge. And I love this so much.
You just want to hold a grudge.
Yes. It burns more calories.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. How do you think your grandma got those legs of hers?
And then she goes,
twig legs.
yeah, right. And she's like, it's not like, they have like Tai Bo at the country club. Like grandma doesn't like, she's not a stairmaster kind of gal. Like she just keeps going. And Rory's like, relax. She says to her, she's like, you know what? I think you're acting a little immature. She just calls her out on it. And Lorelai says, who's acting? Self-awareness.
Yes. Yeah. The self-awareness. I like in this scene that like they're still spiky with each other, but they're clearly doing a much better job of like moving along and existing with one another than Lorelai and Emily are, obviously. They're at least conversing and their wit and their sarcasm is still intact. And bless Rory Rory is such a star in this episode. She's so generous with her emotions and generous with her empathy as well. Gosh, she really, really goes the distance of trying to make things smooth and just smooth things out, but have things carry on. And what maturity there. She's incredible.
She's so mature in this episode. And because she's also the one that knows exactly what happened, right? She's like, everybody's making a really big deal out of nothing happening. Like it was a mistake and she knows it was a mistake and she acknowledged that it was an accident and must have been scary. Like she knows that. But she's like, everybody's acting really upset about literally nothing happening. So yeah, she's definitely trying, or is in this case the middleman, or she's stuck in the middle of a lot of it because it was her blunder that caused all of the drama and all of that. She could easily be more upset than she is. Yeah.
Oh yes. Well, especially given how upset she was at the end of last episode. She has just heard her mom speaking her praises and saying how much she trusts her and she's mature and she doesn't make those mistakes. And then for her mom to just do a complete turnaround on her is just...
She rounded on her. It was like total curveball.
Can we talk about the colors in this scene?
Yes, I wrote down, Rory's dress and their house is all decorated. Okay, I'm going to bring up a picture here again of Rory. It's just this like burgundy, rusty, floral velvet dress that is just stunning. It's not like a typical, what I would consider a typical Christmas dress because of the floral print, but it is gorgeous. It's like amber, like, oh.
I love that in all of her shots in this, she's all warm, it's red, it's like warm light going on in the kitchen. And then every shot that we have of Lorelai, she's all in cool tones. So again, beautiful. We've got the beautiful purple lamp and there's like a purple cushion or a blanket or something in front of her. But she's wearing blue and green. Blue is obviously one of her main colors, but everything of her, like she's got it's a cold light coming from that lamp. And she's got the reflection of the TV screen. Again, a cold light back on her. And so this time should be like Christmas time, warm and cozy and oranges and reds and warm colors, which is Rory right now. But Lorelai is very much just in her cool tones and cold lighting and harsh and
Mm-hmm.
winter, I suppose, but not at all the like warm Christmas vibes that we're used
That's
to.
it. Rory's is like, I'm going out, I'm getting ready. It's fresh. It's energetic, kind of warm colors.
Mhm.
And Lorelai's is like, I'm cozy. I'm in the dark. I'm like that, like cranky. You go without me. The apple tarts. Bleh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So ultimately, Rory goes without her at one point. She says something to Lorelai, and Lorelai's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you because you're halfway to Hartford right now. Like, just
Get out of the house. Just go. Get out of my sight. Just go. Let's end this.
yeah. And so she gets to Emily's, and I was expecting a much larger
Function.
gathering.
Do. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
They made it sound like,
It's
oh,
like-
it's our big Christmas dinner. There's cocktails and this and that. And there's like three guests. So it's
Have
just
they
such
had
a weird
fallings out with
combination.
other people? I don't know if they.
I mean, probably. I think Emily has fallings out with everybody that she talks to.
Yeah.
It's impossible. The first thing I noticed at this party was Emily's sweater jacket moment. The like
Mhm.
red with the black fur and the black cuffs on the sleeve, because I have
Oh
a
my god.
vintage it's from the 60s. It's gonna look terrible on top of this sweater, but I want it to wear the
Well,
sweater, so whatever. I was like, I have like basically that. It's this,
Oh
like,
my god.
cozy red and black. It has like kind of shorter sleeves because that was the style in the 60s, because you'd like wear the gloves with it. I've only ever worn it once, and it was on Christmas Day, going to my parents' house this year. I'm gonna do up some buttons. I wish there was just like one more button just to bring it in
Right.
a bit closer around the neck, because it's very open here.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe there's room for a scarf. I don't know.
Oh, we can manage that. We can fiddle something with that. Do like a hidden snap or something.
Ooh.
Exquisite. That is gorgeous. I love that.
Thank you. I got it for free.
Ooh, even
right?
better.
Even
Holy
better.
cow.
I'm gonna talk about Emily's Christmas party, and then I'm gonna take it off. But
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it on for now. We get actually a very tense start to this party. Richard is getting into it with this man. I'm assuming they work together. So Richard is really upset about this Henry. Henry is a toddler, and no gentleman would edit another man's work without consulting, without so much as a phone call. Like, he's so upset, and he's raising his voice, and he's getting very agitated at this point. How did you feel about that? Because that is out of character.
Well, what stood out to me was that yet again, this is the second time at a party that he's just talking shop. He's just
all
talking
the
about
time,
business,
yeah.
just talking about work, and you think, God, it's Christmas, for goodness sake. Like, can you not talk? Do you not talk about holidays that you go on to, or like vacations or traveling or what? Like, really, this man, for all the things we love about him, really, he is just so work minded, and that's it. That's it. Like, I don't know. I just figured
And
he
we
might
get
have
that from
something.
Lorelai later in the episode, because she's telling Luke that my dad, he worked, he came home, he read the paper, and that was it.
That's
like
it.
That his life
Yeah.
is work and the club.
Yeah, and yeah, I definitely I've never we have yet to see him get this agitated about anything. And regarding parties, and the last time we saw a party, Emily is always so insistent on like behavior at a party and manners, and when we have company, this is how you behave, this is what you talk about. Like, does she not? She tells him, I think she tells him, that all of this talk it's inappropriate for our party or for our dinner guests, and later on at the dinner table
as
well. And then and even later he brings up wildly inappropriate dinner conversation, and it's one of those things that grinds me, that just for all the like the breeding and the wealth and the like formality that they go through, how do they still behave like this? How do they still, have a Christmas party and talk about work, or talk rudely about coworkers and businessmen and things? Like, wow. Are you really that rude? Are you really that? Do you not see how inappropriate and immature that is as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was a
Emily
shock.
does try to say, Richard, stop the shop talk. But I think that he, believes that he's above Emily's rules because he pays for all of Emily's everything. So Emily's rules only apply to him when he feels like they're necessary. And in this case, he was very upset and he wants to get the man on the phone. And I don't care if it's midnight in London, all the better. Like he's
All the better.
so bothered by the situation with Henry the toddler. Meanwhile, Rory is trying to apologize to Emily, and Emily is just cutting her off, shutting her down, changing the subject, just like she did when she was trying to apologize to her about her party. And that, again, is infuriating. Your 16-year-old granddaughter is being more emotionally mature than you are. And she's trying to apologize to you, and she's trying to like mend fences between everybody, and she's just like ignoring her completely.
And she says,
cutting her off.
Yeah, well, she turns her down by saying, this is not the time or place to discuss this. Where I think another theme of the episode is that there is no best time to discuss something or to apologize or say how you feel. Whenever you feel it, as soon as you can, as soon as convenient, I suppose, get it out. Say what you feel. And I think Rory is absolutely right in here that if we're about to spend the whole evening together, I want to clear the air with this. You need to know how my mom feels. You need to know how I feel, blah, blah, blah. And she just will not let it happen.
And that's Emily with appearances, because she's like, I don't want there to seem like there's tension in front of my guests. That's what's important to her, rather than the not comfort, but then the like actual feelings, rather than the appearance of feelings of your family. I think the flip side of your theme, it's sort of like the equal and opposite is avoidance. Because it's that she's avoiding this conversation. She avoids a conversation with Richard at the hospital. Lorelai avoids the hospital situations. So there's a lot of avoidance in this episode in general.
Yeah.
And then one of the guests, asks where Lorelai is. And Emily says, oh, she couldn't come. She had to work. And Richard's like, oh, he's surprised. He didn't know that Lorelai wasn't invited anymore. He had no idea that was happening. He doesn't seem bothered at all by it. But as a parent, I would be extremely bothered to find out that my only child wasn't coming to Christmas dinner. I know that he's so wrapped up in the thing that's going on with work that he probably didn't even register it. It's just a blip because he's so hyper fixating on this man changing his documents. Which, okay, that would be upsetting if you do a bunch of work and then somebody goes in and changes it and is about to present it as your work, but didn't
of course
consult you. That would be upsetting. But to not even react to your only your only daughter not coming to Christmas and not even that kind of bothered me a little bit. And it also bothered me, that he just didn't know. Emily didn't tell him. And I think she didn't tell him on purpose so that he couldn't refute it or try to get her to come or try to convince her. She kept it under wraps until it was too late. And then it just was happening.
Well, the party planning is always her business. Everything to do with guests and who's going to be there, what we're serving, it's all Emily's business. This is all her control, So I guess, Richard's just along for the ride and going to be surprised.
Yeah. And so when Emily says that Lorelai couldn't be there because she had to work, Rory looks really upset. She looks bothered about the lie. She is uncomfortable about what's going on right now because she knows it's not true. And then she's like, right now I'm part of this lie. What if somebody asks me and what do I do? And so the implication there from Emily, putting Rory in an awkward position is also so immature and so unethical.
I like that that Emily is clearly not a great liar because she gets her lies crossed later on. Again, we're at the dinner party, and and she says that Lorelai's ill. She sounds pretty convincing, but no, honey, no, you said she was late. They catch her on it, and she's trying to maintain the composure of oh yes, well, and then she got ill and she had to work late, and yes, girl, you live in a web of lies. This is not happening. Her cover-up story is getting really messy. It's not happening.
And then Rory looks even more uncomfortable. The more she's talking, the more Rory's like, dude, stop. She hates it. Understandably, it's very uncomfortable. At dinner, Richard and his colleague are still not letting it go. Richard will not let it go. And then they get into this whole side thing. Like now he's attacking the man's character because he's probably out with some cheap tramp. And then they make a joke how, it wouldn't be a cheap tramp knowing Henry. Like it would be an expensive one. And that's where Emily is like, this is wildly inappropriate for a dinner conversation, especially in front of your 16-year-old granddaughter. There's a young lady at the table, which is fair, but also, I mean, she's not naive. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but also not the time or place. Like, it's Christmas dinner, let it go. And then Richard starts to get really worked up and agitated. He's warm. He's trying to loosen his tie. And then Emily with the control, like, Richard, don't loosen your tie at the table. Richard is just so bothered, and he tries to go and turn off the thermostat or turn down the thermostat. And that's the last that we see of Richard for this scene.
For a little while.
Of dinner. That's the end of the dinner scene. Meanwhile, Lorelai's trying to order a pizza. And there's this whole like side saga. Okay, I'm taking this off now because the wool is like really itchy on my neck.
Oh no.
So this is by Bix, Byck, Bix from Louisville,
Kentucky?
Yes.
Mm.
All right. So there's this like whole hilarious conversation with Lorelai and the pizza guy about this like woe is me tale about the delivery truck and how his brother's out delivering pizzas on his Razor scooter. And she's like, 2000,
Remember
right?
Razor scooters? Oh my
So
God.
good.
Oh, jeez.
And so Lorelai's like, all right, get to the point. Where's my pizza? Like, when is this going to happen? I mean, to Steve's point, she could have just gone to get the pizza.
Yeah, just order for pickup. Hello. Just go ahead and
Right.
All
just
right.
go out. She's walking around because all the Christmas decorations in the tree, and you see it. It's just so cozy. It's so nice.
I love one of her ornaments. It's very glaring. It's very much there, and it says "No pouting."
No pouting. I knew it.
which feels very Christmas. You better not pout. You better not cry. Blah 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 blah. But also, let's see Lorelai last episode and her adorable little pout under the blanket. My back hurts.
Yeah, that's where my eyes like lasered in on that exact ornament as well. And at first I thought it said no polluting. And I was like,
I thought it said no pooping.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
well, neither of those
dogs
are very
don't poop here.
Christmassy.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, so we figured it out eventually, but I'm glad that you noticed it too.
It must be a family favorite.
It must be. So pizza, not happening. Lorelai, all dejected, goes to the kitchen, like opens up a bag of lettuce and just dumps the dressing in. Which, you know what?
Good.
You do you. I'm not. I actually wrote like yes in all caps because I was like, who cares? Like, you're by yourself. You're cranky. That's one of the first times we've seen her eat salad. So she's sitting there. She's eating the salad. Which, by the way, I adore her shirt. The like bowling and roller rink, like
Yes.
retro kind of like 50s, 60s vibe for her shirt. Incredible. And she hears some tapping. She hears tap, tap, tap on the window. And it's Dean. He knows it's Friday night, but he knows that Rory is not home.
Oh yeah. How foolish of him.
How foolish. He's
foolish.
just so desperate to see her again. All routine out the window or at the window.
Nah. Yeah, well, I suppose, he's been calling for the last 4 days and calling doesn't work, so he's gonna show up.
Tapping on Rory's bedroom window. Oops, in comes Lorelai. And his face is like, for a split second, he's excited because the light turns on. He's like,
Yeah.
oops.
I have been found. Okay, busted. I want to put something in at this juncture about Dean. I feel like I might have been a little bit too hard on him last episode. I think I was having expectations of him as if he was as if they were like firmly in a relationship and he was a more experienced young man or, a bit more grown up, blah, 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 blah. But it occurs to me, they're still very, very early in their relationship and they're just figuring out how they need to communicate with each other. So a few apologies, a little bit more sympathy extended to Dean from last episode.
I love how important Lorelai's approval is for Dean. Because not a lot of partners, not a lot of teenagers would care if your girlfriend or boyfriend's or partner's parents like you, I feel. I think often there'd be just neutral. And he's just like, am I public enemy number one with you? He really cares about where he stands with Lorelai, because
Mhm.
he also understands that Lorelai is like the gatekeeper. And if
Mhm.
Lorelai is not happy, Rory would be a lot harder to access.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But he genuinely seems to want to clear the air and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well,
come to
he asks,
Rory's.
please tell me where I stand. Like,
Yeah.
I need to know this. Please, tell me where I stand so that I can, navigate and do the right thing next. And
It must
what's
have been
going on.
so hard for Dean in those, at this point, it's probably 4 days, 5 days, maybe at this point, because it must have been so hard for him not know what's going on, not knowing how much trouble Rory's in, not knowing if Lorelai is like extremely mad or if they're working through it. Like, is Rory grounded? Like, what's going on? And he has no idea. And it would be.
He hasn't yet had the chance to apologize. And remember, he was so adamant that he go back with Rory and that they face, they face the monster together and deal with this together. But he hasn't been able to have any kind of a word in.
I like that I feel like the word like noble almost has like a negative connotation now, like trying to do the noble thing. It's almost like an eye roll word, but he is trying to be really noble and not in like a disingenuous way. Like, he actually wants to do the right thing. And I really like that about him. And so Lorelai is like, listen, this is scary for me. I had Rory when I was 16, and that's how old she is now. And I'm not comfortable with what's going on right now. And she's going to Harvard. Like, this isn't going to happen to her. She wants to go to Harvard. And he said, she will go to Harvard. And if she doesn't, it will not be because of me. And he says it with conviction and confidence. And he's just like, I will not be the cause of any diversion. He will not be an issue for Rory in terms of like the life plan and the education and the course that she's on.
There's a couple things that came to my mind when I was watching this scene. One of them is something that I learned at theater school about character motivation and like the movement through a scene, the movement through a whole storyline. It's important that actors know about this, and writers, screenwriters and script writers are aware of this as well. And it's, what does the character need in order to resolve the scene or the plot point? And this isn't just the case for this scene specifically, but like every scene basically. And resolution doesn't always have to happen, but it's sort of how you act and how you move the plot forward. In this, it's just very, very clear to me that both have something that they need from the other. I think Lorelai wants to trust Dean, wants to like him, wants to, feel differently about him. She wants the acknowledgement from him, I think, as well, of like, this and this happened, and here's my assuredness. And Dean just he needs to get his apology out, but yeah, he needs to know, where does he stand. And that, to me, it was very, very clear coming out of the scene for some reason. But also, Lorelai's honesty is so important in this scene, that it's so important for him to know, and also just for them to have that kind of a conversation. And she is always honest. She's hugely sarcastic and makes up funny stories, but her honesty is just vital for him to get what he needs, and for the forgiveness to happen, right? And it also reminded me, like she said a few episodes ago, after the kiss in the market, Dean reminds her of Christopher. And like, what an extra like layer of just like shock and worry and fear. I wonder how much he reminds her of Christopher at this point. Was Christopher this, noble or confidently assertive and stuff? I don't know.
He wanted to marry her when she got pregnant. I
True.
feel like he was also the do the right thing kind of guy. I don't know how forthcoming he was like with the Gilmores, but the Gilmores wouldn't have been as open to that level of communication and honesty, I don't think, as Lorelai is with Dean. But I think Christopher was also very much like, we'll do the right thing when the time comes. And actually, I think that from what you were saying, that is what Lorelai needed from Dean is to understand that he values the importance of Rory's goals and trajectory. Like that he doesn't, like she needs to understand from him that he doesn't want to be a hindrance to her success or to change the plan. Like it's not like he's like, oh, I'm going to go to community college, so I want Rory to stay here with me. Like she needs to know that he is a champion for her and her goals as she is. And him saying that to her, saying that he wasn't going to be the reason she doesn't go to Harvard, I think that is what softens her a lot. Because it was after that point that she says, we have a great front door. You can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, quit being sneaky.
Yeah.
I'm inviting you, use the front door, be seen by people, and I want you to be clear with me. Quit sneaking around. These are such good building blocks for a relationship and for this kind of a relationship as well. And I like that this doesn't just sort of come out of nowhere. It makes sense that they would be talking this openly and this honest, because they always have. In every scene that we've seen them together, they are clear like that. And I'm hoping, I don't know, remember, I'm the fresh eyes. I'm hoping that kind of openness and honesty continues. I don't know.
They wrap up the scene with Lorelai saying that she did imagine like 20 different ways to rip his head off. And then they have this like funny kind of bonding moment over the dull hedge clippers and how you wouldn't want it to be too fast. And she's like, well, exactly. And they have their reconciliation, and now they're back to being like chums and being silly. And Dean's able to joke about how he was, like on thin ice, and he's able to admit that, and that, he was in a little bit of trouble, and it's okay. Now we're okay, so we can joke about it and everyone is fine. At this point, Lorelai's like, screw salad. I can't just have this bag salad. And I guess she makes the decision to go to Luke's for dinner. So she goes to Luke's, she's by herself, and she just is like out of her groove. She's out of her vibe. And she's explaining to Luke what's happened and why she's not a Friday night dinner. And I have this clip here. I love it.
Why the hell would anybody celebrate Christmas 2 weeks early?
Did you even hear the part about me being uninvited?
To your parents' fake Christmas party?
Yes.
I did hear that.
Do you care?
Obviously you do.
Yes, I do. And I don't know why.
You liked going.
I did.
Rory's there without you.
She is.
You and Rory aren't getting along right now. You feel bad at being separated at a time you usually share together.
Wow.
Did I mention you come here every damn day?
In a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, it's exactly this. Like, obviously, like you can't see that. And so Luke is the kind to like sit and observe. He doesn't engage very much, but he knows everything that's going on with this family, with Lorelai and Rory, and probably more people that we aren't really aware of, because he's like this, the central part of the town, and he's right in the middle, and everybody goes to Luke's, and he has this insight to Lorelai that she doesn't even have into herself, and I love it. But he doesn't make a big deal out of it, and he dumbs it down a little bit in the like, have I mentioned that you come here every damn day? Like, he doesn't take it and be like, yeah, I know everything about you, and he doesn't do this hero act, like I'm your savior and I understand you and nobody else, he is just like, what? So you come here every day. Like,
you don't surprise me. You can't surprise me anymore. Luke kind of threw me in this scene. For the first time, we're hearing his opinion of Dean. And he's very adamant that Dean is trouble. That boy's trouble. Where did that come from? We have had
Patty's floor. That came from Miss Patty's dad's studio.
Okay. I guess that's enough. I suppose so. But he's so, I don't know, for someone who does, witness people one-on-one and interact with them one-on-one. Dean has been into Luke's before. He's gone and grabbed a coffee, and they had that silent good morning exchange of when he exchanged money and then left. Like, that was in the Rory's birthday episode. That's all we've seen of them. So for Luke to be so hard and so like convinced that he's trouble, I don't know, it just seems a little bit aggressive, a little bit swayed by like public opinion, I suppose. Because he was very open to Dean at the start. Like when Lorelai was spying on him in the grocery store, Luke was sort of calling her out for it, of like, you're spying on this poor boy. Like, okay, so he kissed Rory. he's not a bad guy, but now he's so sure he's trouble. He is. And it's just
so it would have been anybody. It had nothing to do with Dean as a person. It has everything to do with the situation. So now Luke is being protective. He's known Rory her entire life. He's the closest to like a father figure other than her actual father, who's like never around. It's Luke feeling extremely protective, and Dean was harmless before, but now he's like, wait a minute, maybe he's not so harmless. Maybe something could actually happen. And I don't think he's caring at all about what people in the town are saying. I think he himself is just feeling like this is basically my kid or like my niece or my daughter or whatever. And it could have been literally anybody in the world. If that situation had happened, suddenly Luke would be livid and and like upset. And it was extremely aggressive. And even Lorelai gets defensive. She's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You said that he wasn't a bad kid. And you said that he wasn't. And so like exactly what you just said. And she called him out. So now it's a role reversal from that situation where she's like, And like she could easily be like, excuse me, that is not your kid, back off. But that's the kind of relationship that they all have, that Lorelai understands why Luke is getting all up in arms about it, because she also concedes to the fact that it was a bad situation. She starts out defensive, and then they sort of like meet in the middle where Lorelai's like, yeah, I know. It's like not great. And that's when they get into talking about the Christmas party and why Lorelai is there. This is where Lorelai ends up kind of like, she's just not in her usual place because she asks to see a menu. And he's like, what are you talking about? You come here every damn day.
She tries to say, I'm in the mood for something different. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you really? It's Christmas. Come on.
That's it. So she wants something festive. And Luke comes up with this.
What did you do?
You wanted something festive.
You made me a Santa burger.
It's no big deal.
He has a hat and everything.
Yeah, I just cut a piece of Wonder Bread, poured on a little ketchup, piped on a little cream cheese.
No one has ever made me something quite this disgusting before. I thank you.
Look at this. Oh God, it's awful. So it's this piece of bread with ketchup as a hat and like piped on the cream cheese. I like how he's telling her all the steps that he did, making it sound so casual, but like that's a lot of work. Why does he even have piping bags? He's a diner.
We've got olives, like pimento stuffed olives for eyes, and I guess tomato nose and a like extra slice of tomato skin for the mouth, the smiley face.
I think it might be a red pepper.
Okay. Oh my God.
And then just this beard, and it's hideous. It's awful, but like also I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I can go for some olives right now. That'd be fine.
It's like I'm not going to make anything festive for you, but I will go above and beyond and make something festive for you, right?
It's awful, but it's because he loves her. He loves her so much. Right at the end of the scene, her phone starts ringing. So her phone starts ringing. And he looks at her and he's like, excuse me, no cell phones. What do you think? The sign is just a decoration? And immediately she's like, honey, nothing in here is a decoration. That's so hard. Oh God, she's so good. She's like, oh, that rule is stupid. Hey, everybody, who says that I can't have cell phone in here? Who agrees that we shouldn't have cell phones? Everybody raises their hand. And she's like, screw democracy. Screw democracy. And she goes to answer the phone, but she missed it. So she's waiting for the voicemail to come in. As she's waiting for the voicemail to come in, Taylor and all of the like people working on the pageant, or no, the carolers, and they're trying to get some hot chocolate. So they're having like this whole side conversation while Lorelai is listening to the voicemail. And you just know from the setup of this that it's going to be something bad. Because they're trying to do the like comedic relief of the side conversation with Taylor while Lorelai's listening to this voicemail. She finds out that Richard, after having left the table at the party to turn down the thermostat, has had some sort of medical emergency and is in the hospital. We have no information other than Grandpa's in the hospital, please come. That's it. That's the whole voicemail.
I absolutely love how Luke goes from this like ridiculous exchange with the carolers who are coming in like, well, if we sing for you and you give us hot chocolate, he's like, free hot chocolate. So you want free hot chocolate. It just seems like one of those on the daily, on the regular, between him and Taylor having some kind of a disagreement, whatever. But as soon as he senses any kind of, there's something up, with Lorelai, he's just out of that conversation and it's straight to Lorelai, because clearly that is what needs his attention. And he is immediately in emergency mode.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear this line the first time through, but I heard it the second time. He goes, Taylor, have your hot chocolate, then lock up. Totally impossible in any other kind of a diner or establishment. But I guess small town place,
Exactly.
you could just get everyone to clear out and like, it's an emergency, get out, get out, get out. But like, I love how well Luke can focus on what's most important. It's not about the hot chocolate. It's not about the diners. It's not about the this. It's just go, the food's on me. Like,
Yeah.
this is crisis. This is a crisis. Get out and go. Like, to be able to do that, I wish I could do that kind of heroic act of like,
Right.
stop all the presses, move along, we have crisis. Like, I wish. I wish I could do that.
He's
And
full hero mode.
yeah. And I love Lorelai. What's Lorelai's actress's name?
Lauren Graham.
Lauren Graham. Okay. I love her performance in this part of the scene. She turns into a little girl, a frightened little girl. She's barely got her coat on. Like, Luke's about to drive her to the hospital, and she can barely get out. Luke, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I'm worried. She can't even get the words out. And the look on her face is, it's a little frightened girl. And Luke doesn't even need her to continue. He just says, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. She's trying to talk to him when he's saying that he's going to, shut down the diner. And she's like, but there's people and there's food and there's a burger with a face. She's just like, but words and things and like, but brain. And he's just like, it's fine. Like, shut it. It's okay. You have a thing that like focus on you. The rest doesn't matter. Oh.
It's such a thing. Like, this continues into the next scene as well, but it doesn't matter how old you are. As soon as there is something something involving your parent, you become a child again. Doesn't matter how old you are, how grown up you are, what your like closeness is. And we learn about her relationship with Richard in the next scene. But wow, this is obviously where the episode just totally shifts gears and totally shifts tone, and is just brilliant all the way through, I think.
Mm-hmm. Lorelai's in the truck and she's freaking out, and Luke is driving very slow because it's winter and there's ice, and Luke is just trying to be steady, and she's like, getting after him about how there's like grandma is passing him, and he's like, there's black ice, those people aren't being safe. Like, he's just being level and he's got safety in mind, and he's like, I'm driving as fast as I can, but he's not like snapping at her about it because she's like ripping his head off about his driving speed. And she apologizes to him because she's like, I'm yelling at you and you're helping me. And she recognizes that she's being unreasonable because he's like, I don't care. He's like, I know you've got a lot happening right now.
Yeah. She says, I'm yelling at you and I don't mean it. He says, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even have to explain. I get it.
Yeah. And so she starts to talk about how, she thinks that, or she's imagining in this situation, she'd be thinking about the time she went to pick out a Barbie with her dad and they went fishing and all these other things. And she's like, we never did that. That's not who my dad was. And he's a by the numbers guy. And I was never really good at numbers.
She describes a very hands-off dad type of experience. But she's adamant, like, he's not a bad guy.
No, exactly.
He worked hard and he did what he thought was right. And yeah, he's a by the numbers kind of guy. And wow, that hit home for me because that's my dad. I'm not gonna go into a therapy session here, but yeah, my dad was not a very like hands-on involved with us, but he wasn't a horrible guy. He just did what he thought was right. He did what he thought he had to do to make the best for us. And when she expresses this fear, like, gosh, what a disappointment I must have been, or I must have turned out to be. A disappointment I must have been for him that I didn't turn out the way he wanted me to. That's the kind of thing that plays on your mind of like, did my parents have, maybe it's clear they did have, other dreams for me as a daughter, or for, I must have been such a letdown. And Luke just being the dad we all need, saying, like no one could ever be disappointed in you. You couldn't disappoint anybody.
Yeah.
Luke is such
He said-
a dad. Ugh.
The line is, I can't imagine anyone being disappointed by you.
There you are.
And to me, that's not a dad, that's a partner.
Okay.
Because of the way that the way that he says it, it feels very romantic to me in that moment.
Oh yeah.
Than,
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But yeah, so Lorelai is feeling all of this guilt about her parents having had expectations of what their daughter would be, and then them getting Lorelai, who's not interested in their lifestyle, when she's saying that like my dad just only ever lived for his lifestyle. And then, he must have wanted a daughter to like continue those traditions, and then he got me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so she's feeling a lot of guilt over her childhood, over her relationship with her parents, the entire way there, basically. And Luke is just being so swell, and he's just listening and trying to be supportive, and he's just letting her feel all of her big feelings, whether it's targeted towards him or not. It's really sweet.
I like that he also mentions or gives her some more support in "You're a great mom." If you had any kind of doubt there, I can assure you, you're a great mom. And she says, "It's the daughter part I don't have down yet."
Mm-hmm.
And wow, she didn't really have opportunity to be a daughter. If she was a mom at 16. And then like a single mom at 16, and you don't really get to. There's such a weird thing that happens in growing up. Obviously, you don't really recognize when the shift happens, going from being someone's child. You never stop being someone's offspring. You never stop being somebody's daughter. You might not notice that, but the parent does. You are always the daughter, the son to the parent, no matter how old you are, and like. These are all things that really have been resonating with me in recent years, and just this episode was so mature and so brave, I think, for tackling something like that in such a cozy way.
Yeah, they made it really approachable. So we get to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and Emily is being insufferable. She's being awful. Absolutely just tearing this nurse apart. Jane Lynch, incredible. The nurse is being so patient, where Emily is just like screaming at her, trying to get information and like refusing to fill out any forms. But she's just like, where's my husband? Who is the doctor? Who is working on him? What's going on right now? Like, you need to tell me everything that is happening. And the nurse is just like, I can't really tell you anything. He's being looked at. He's being taken care of. And then this other doctor shows up, a doctor friend of theirs. And this was infuriating, because it was like, oh, Joshua, thank God. Like, tell me everything. These people are being the worst. And then he's basically just like, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry. And it's just that like leg up in society that certain people have because of who they know and the power and all of that, because suddenly Emily's going to be getting the answers that she wants. Whereas somebody else in the waiting room who doesn't have a Joshua still has to wait and be patient and wait for the news from the nursing staff or the doctor or whoever when the time has come, rather than I'm rich, I have powerful friends, I'm getting preferential treatment because this man and I are friends.
Is he their personal doctor, I suppose? Yeah.
And I'm assuming he works at the hospital, because he's obviously able to just like waltz in and do whatever.
Be there. Yeah.
So then Emily's being awful, berating this poor nurse. And Rory wants to call Lorelai again. And I don't understand this part. Emily is like, no, she must be busy. Like, again, that like narcissistic, woe is me, she's not invested in us, she doesn't care. But then 2 seconds later, she turns the corner and then calls Lorelai's house. Why won't she let Rory do it? I don't understand this. Do you have...
I think it's another moment where we see Emily in public in her sort of performance mode, versus when she is alone and private, then she actually has a bit more common sense. So I think because her internal story right now has been, as far as Rory is concerned as well, Lorelai is clearly too busy for us. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't want to know any of this. So I am going to exclude her from this. So that's what she's continuing to perform. And it's only once she's left on her own that, like, the nurse has gone away, Rory's gone away, she's totally left on her own, that it's, okay, but the actual mom thing to do and what I really want to do is tell Lorelai about this. I think it's just her being left to her actual thoughts, even just for a moment, she comes to her senses, and what she actually wants to do is reach out to Lorelai. This is the real her. But obviously Lorelai's on her way, so she gets the answering machine. And that just, and that's the kind of thing that makes miscommunication and misunderstandings of just like, oh, she's not even home. She must be out. She must be out on a date. Aha, my thoughts were confirmed. She's clearly too busy for us, her instincts.
So we get this moment where the nurse is trying to get Emily to fill out the insurance forms. And this is another form of avoidance for Emily. So instead of Emily admitting that she just like doesn't know the insurance information, she chooses to like scream at the nurse about everything. So first the nurse calls her Ms. Gilmore, and she's like, I'm Mrs. Gilmore. What do you think I am? Some kind of Cosmo woman? That made me laugh so hard. It's like such a ridiculous thing to say. But then we finally get some of the Lorelai banter from Emily. So we saw
this is exactly what I was thinking.
This is difficult for you, but if you don't fill out these forms...
What? You'll do what? I'd like to hear in your most condescending tone what my punishment will be for not filling out these forms in a timely manner. Are there bamboo shoots involved? Some sort of dark, deep hole in the ground? Rats nibbling at my toes?
She just goes on and on and on. And the nurse is like, what is this day? Like,
the difference here being that I think Lorelai can have some respect for like customer service and like customer facing, whatever. Like, although when Lorelai does appear, like she's about to show up and like this whole fracas is about to turn into something else. I kind of wish Lorelai was a bit more sympathetic to the nurse than she actually is. Like, I get it that she's wrapped up and stressed, but I was hoping for at least some kind of a like, I don't know, like some kind of a visible, this lady's doing what she can, and then like towards the nurse to something like, thank you for your help, but go, something. Yeah. But she just kind of like adds an extra bit of like snap to it. I don't know how to describe it, but I wanted her to be a fair bit more sympathetic to the nurse. She really
she does rescue the nurse. She does.
She does
set the nurse off the hook, and I think that's her. I didn't get that at all. I was appreciative of everything that Lorelai did to like come in and she did diffuse the situation, and she like, because I understand that I see what you're saying. It's like, oh, sorry about my mom. Like she's whatever, but also that's like Emily's behavior is not Lorelai's responsibility, and Lorelai.
No, I know, but I think it's because I've been in customer service for such a long time and I have been berated by people. I've been like personally attacked for literally nothing that has anything to do with me by people. And then like I just put myself exactly in the nurse's shoes, and she's just trying to do her job and she is being abused essentially. So I was hoping for a little bit more recognition. I mean, Lorelai wasn't there. Lorelai doesn't actually know how awful her mom was being, but come on, some acknowledgement of some nicer treatment to the poor old nurse who's just trying to, I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
So I do have the scene from where they've just about to find one another, and when Lorelai gets to the hospital, I laughed so hard.
This hospital or my mother and my father. Now I know I don't get along with them, but there has to be some sort of intuition, some sort of blood bond that will somehow lead me to them.
That's crazy.
My great uncle founded this hospital.
And that's Emily.
Just the like, hark, a Gilmore.
yeah, exactly. My great uncle founded this hospital. That's what they do. That's what they'll talk about. Is they'll talk about people who are totally irrelevant. Ma'am, I just need you to the best of your abilities, fill out these forms. We don't need to have a fight about this. I'm not fighting you. Just do your best. If you have trouble, you have trouble. Come on. And but again, we've seen Emily in a crisis. She is hostile. She's vile. Yeah.
And so, Lorelai is like, okay, I will fill out these forms if you want to go find a doctor to help us with the situation or like to give us something. And the nurse starts to be like, oh, no, but that's not. And she's like, unless you would like to stay here with my mother and I will go find a doctor. And the nurse is like, heard. Okay, bye. She's like, okay, I'm out of here. And so Emily is just like, at this point, dumbfounded. She's like, you got rid of her. That was amazing. Like she just all of her animosity just like melts away and she's truly like awestruck at the situation. And then she looks around and sees that Luke is with Lorelai when they show up at the hospital. She's like, were you on a date? And Lauren's like, no, Mom, like this is Luke. And Emily's just like, I'm not following. Like, why is that relevant? And there's this whole back and forth, but like, yeah, okay, like I could have been on a date, but like, Mom, it's Luke. And he's just like,
taking the little punches as they come.
So Emily's trying to explain to Lorelai like what's been going on. She's like, everybody just keeps disappearing through those doors. And Lorelai's like, okay, let's go with that. She's like, I didn't know you could do that. Like Lorelai just goes through the doors and Emily's like, what? So it's just like two completely different styles of handling situations where Emily's just used to getting her way and do you know who I am and whatever. And Lorelai is just like, well, let's just go figure it out. Like actual problem solving and not demanding of other people to give you the information that you need. And she's just like, okay, cool. All right.
Let's break the rules. Oh, all right. This is a crisis mode. Yeah, we're breaking the rules. Let's go do it.
Yep. So off they go. Emily and Lorelai, off they go. And Luke has a seat. Rory comes and she's like, oh my God, Luke, what are you doing here? And they have a really sweet heart to heart where she's like, I was just getting to know him. Like, I don't want him to die. And Luke is being so sweet and gentle and comforting. And I love him so much for that.
Rory, you can tell that Rory's reaction to crisis is that she wants to be helpful. She's somehow able to stay so calm despite being anxious, worried, afraid, confused. She's able to stay calm and find out ways to help, even considering Luke, okay, I'm going to go get some coffee. Luke, you want tea? How can I put my energy to use right now? Where can I best do this? It's in being useful, helpful, and extend kindness and bringing some positivity into it. And yeah, it's in her exchange with Lorelai that she says, I was just getting to know him. Richard. So Rory heads off and Luke and Lorelai, we're finally left to just them two sitting side by side. And Luke is mega supportive. He continues to be the support that we want, that we're hoping for, just surprising us. And I love that he says, you were very brave for her, for Rory. And Lorelai says, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Which, the recognition that, yeah, Rory was so brave last episode to take her fury, but now Lorelai is being Mom. She's being brave. She's doing what she needs to do. That's
I understood it to be Luke was being brave for Lorelai during her freak out in the car, and then it was Lorelai's turn to be brave for Rory. Like I wasn't seeing it as it's my turn for Rory from the previous episode. I understood it to be I had a meltdown in the car. I was scared. You comforted me. And now I have to do that for my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, both.
Yeah. Could
both
be
work.
either. Could be both. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, for me, that's where I saw the resolution of Lorelai and Rory on Lorelai's side anyway, is that, okay, well, I know my daughter. I've seen how she's been, and now it's my turn to be brave and to do the right thing and to comfort her.
Here we have Luke trying to still comfort her. This is where they bring a little bit of the humor back into a very heavy situation. So we have Luke talking about, like think positive thoughts like rainbows and fluffy clouds and clowns, and he just stops. It's like I'm out. Lorelai's like, thank God, like stop.
You've done enough. You've done enough, Luke. Okay,
that's enough. Emily is being very similar to Rory in these scenes where they both need to be useful. So Emily is preparing for Richard's room. She's like, we need to find some down pillows. We need to find I was on slippers or blankets, or there was something else that she needed to find for him. So now she's like, okay, things are happening. I can stay active so that I don't have to think. And that's what
Mhm.
Rory wants to do too. Rory wants to be useful and active because she doesn't want to just stand around waiting and thinking. But Luke and Lorelai are just sitting, chilling, having their conversation. And we find out that Luke does not like hospitals. And boy, did I feel seen here. I get like queasy and uncomfortable. I do not like
Really?
hospitals. I can't. I didn't even want to have my child in a hospital. Like when I was pregnant, I was like, I can't go. I can't go. Like I tried to go to the birthing center, but I had some complications and they wouldn't take me. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to consider a home birth because I do not like hospitals. I do not like them. They make me feel so uncomfortable. So we get the very comedic version of this with Luke being like, oh, people with their tubes and their stuff, like open wounds and like all of these things, because he's like seeing people being wheeled by. And he's like, what? Like, I can't look at this.
The normally so like stoic and like comfortable, easygoing Luke is now like, good. He is struggling.
You don't look so good.
Thanks.
That's not what I meant. You know you always look good.
Yeah?
I meant you always look healthy,
Okay.
but you don't look so healthy now. Now you look...
Unhealthy.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, what? So I said you look good. We're not in 5th grade. You look good. Big deal. Stop staring at me.
I love that they can flirt anywhere. Doesn't matter where they are. They can be totally uncomfortable. They can be in the middle of the market. They can be anywhere.
And he is teasing her. And they flirt in a very different way than she does with Max, obviously. Because here she's like uncomfortable. She's like flirting because she actually, I think, likes him, but doesn't realize that she likes him or doesn't necessarily want to like him. And
That's
doesn't,
it. Yeah.
But she does. And so she's like, we're not in the 5th grade, Luke. Like, like she's being such a dork about it. Whereas with Max, it's less scary. So she can be suave and she can be sultry and she can be, you know, her seductive, flirtatious self. But with Luke, she just turns into this like child, like this just a teenager. She doesn't know what to do or how to behave. And he just lets her suffer in that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and like, so with Mr. Medina, she has created the her that she wants to be, that she wants to present to him. She can just, you know, she can start from whatever starting point she wants and she can build up from there. But obviously, yeah, Luke sees her every day. He knows her on her bad hair days, on her worst days, on her most beautiful ones, like everything. He knows the ins and outs and the best and the worst of her already. Yeah, that's an uncomfortable spot to be in, and you don't want somebody who knows all your flaws. You don't want to like them like that, or you don't want them to like you back, and you don't want to be caught flirting with them. But girl, and yeah, it makes sense that she just turns into a child.
Yep. And so they are saved here by Richard being brought into his room, and you could tell that Lorelai is just like gutted seeing him on the bed, gurney, stretcher, just seeing him there being wheeled into the room. And she doesn't go in. She can't go in yet. She's like, Mom, you go. And then she's like, I'm going to go find Rory. And then Rory comes like immediately. And then Rory goes in and she's just like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And Luke immediately is like, so who else are you going to find? Like he does not let that slide. He's like, I know what you're doing. I know you. You don't want to go in there, but like you have to go in there. And she's like, nope. Going to find coffee. Bye. I'm uncomfortable. It's too vulnerable and too scary for her to face head on like that after having seen her dad in that gurney on that bed.
Luke says, I don't think he means it to be as heavy as it comes, but he says the truth hurts. And again, he's still meaning it to be teasing, but we're facing a lot of truth right now, and a lot of it hurts. It's such a relief to see Richard awake and talking, because at this point, nobody knows how bad it is or how
good point.
Severe it might be. So to actually open that scene and not leave us hanging any longer, and he's awake. He's talking. He's laughing a little bit, and Rory is so kind, so kind. You can tell that she really, really wants to keep the connection that she's made with her grandpa. So much so that, yeah, she's reading the Financial Times or whatever, like aloud to him.
Yeah.
And she is getting so much from this. Like, it's probably not her idea of a fun time, but it doesn't matter. She wants to show her grandpa how much she cares about him. She wants to spend the time with him and be there. Even so much in the little detail of, if I hug you, will it hurt? Before she leaves. And he says, pain is
Life
a part
is
of
pain.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This like, this grandpa wisdom and like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Meanwhile, Lorelai is still MIA throughout this.
Mhm.
I don't even know if Richard knows that Lorelai's there at this point because she wasn't at dinner. And so if nobody mentions that Lorelai was around, then I don't know. But Rory leaves, and then we get this scene, and it was a really heartbreaking scene because Richard is trying to be practical and sensible. He's had a scare, and in his mind, he needs to know that his family is taken care of and has the information they need. And he needs to know that Emily knows where the key to the safe is, where the insurance papers are, where the will is. Like, he needs her to know. And she's completely ignoring him. She's putting the pillows behind him. She's fluffing, like she's just doing all of this stuff. And she's just like, nope, Richard, we're not having this conversation. She's just like, you are not dying tonight. That's not what's happening in this hospital. I will not allow it. And in fact, I demand to go first. And the way that Richard, he doesn't even argue. He sees how terrified she is. He sees that she's just like, will not even fathom the possibility of life without him. And that she's just so scared and she's so anxious. And then the way that he just takes her hand and he says, yes, Emily, you may go first. Like anybody has any control of that. But he just is like, okay, this is what she needs to hear. And I just need to comfort her because she's scared. Like, I had the hard issue. We find out a little bit later on. It was a touch of angina. But the tenderness and affection and compassion that he has for her in that moment, realizing like how scared she is. And she's trying to just hold it together. She's like on the phone, like trying not to cry. She's like, just like, I need to just take care of you right now. We're not going to talk about that because this is not what's happening.
I think in their future, I feel like Emily is showing that she would be an excellent carer for him. I think she probably envisions herself as an excellent carer. Like if he were to become totally immobile or like need 24/7 care or whatever, I think in the things like make sure he's comfortable and like what can I do to make sure everything right happens, I think she'd be excellent at that. And she's almost motherly here. We get a little glimpse of Mother Emily and like fluffing the pillows and, can you sit up? Okay, I'm putting that there. Obviously, she should be responding to what he's saying, and it's definitely going in her ears, and she's not responding. But that just goes to such brilliant performances by both of them. And the tenderness and the genuine affection for each other here, especially how Richard demonstrates that as well. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps. It was just like, it was so sweet. Meanwhile, Rory and Lorelai have met up at some vending machines. It's their turn for an official reconciliation. Rory reiterates that nothing happened. And Lorelai tells her that there are two things in the world that she trusts. One of them is that she'll never understand Charo, and the other is Rory. She's like, I know that, but you have to understand the panic I felt when you didn't come home. And that's the root of it. The root was never you were out with the boy. That wasn't the problem. If she had like fully planned and like let her mom know she wasn't going to be home, like she trusts Rory implicitly. If she was like, I'm having a reading night with Dean and we're just going to read, like she would probably be like, that's believable. Yeah. You're Rory. I get that. But she's like, the panic moment when you didn't come home, and Rory's like, I know, and it won't happen again. And we're finally at a place where they've forgiven one another and they're there back to their relationship. They've healed in that moment.
This is, I think, a perfect example of we feel that resolution because each character hears and gets from the scene what they've been needing all along, what they've been needing to hear and needing to know. So Rory needed to know that her mom still loved her and trusted her. She just needed to hear that because I feel like you don't trust me and that's why you're arguing with me. She needed to know that she still trusts her. I still believe all these things that I said about you that you overheard, that those are all still true. And Lorelai, she needed to get that out. but also to express to Rory that I get that you want to be someone who will not make mistakes. Things will happen, and you need to know that. You need to know that I will still be there. I'm ready for things to happen. You will not be perfect at every step of the way. As much as Rory says it'll never happen again. No, something will. It won't be this.
Will.
Something will. We end up with such a sense of relief and resolution.
Then I really love that Rory had the heart to try to lie to Lorelai about the apple tarts, because we didn't really touch on it, but there are these apple tarts every Christmas that Lorelai is obsessed with. And Rory tries to tell her that there were no apple tarts at Christmas. Don't worry about it. And she's like, aw, he tried to lie to her. That's nice. And she calls her out on it too. But it's just like a cute little line that I really enjoyed. And while this is happening, Emily is with Luke. They're having a little chat. So Emily has a bit of self-reflection because she's there with Richard's necktie, and how she recognizes how, he was trying to loosen his tie at the table and she told him not to. And he was having this like attack of angina or whatever it was. And she's like, I told him not to loosen his tie. Like, imagine the guilt that she must feel in that moment. But she is such a control freak, and she recognizes that she is always trying to do that. And this was the situation where he really needed to loosen his necktie. And she was just like, don't, you dear.
And notice, actually, the first thing she does in this scene as she's sitting down next to Luke is she unbuttons the top of her top. So she's relaxing, she's opening, she's coming out of this like buttoned up, stiff appearance. And the whole way through this scene, they're so open. There's so much honesty, vulnerability. And I love that Luke asks, how is he? And she's about to start with just the casual go-to answer, which is, oh, he's okay. He's resting. But she stops. Oh, I don't know. For her to say, I don't know.
Major.
Oh my God, is such a huge thing. And that she says it to Luke as well. Like, oftentimes that is the person who's like barely involved. That's the person who you're most open with, and you can be the most honest with as well, as tell your feelings and show your true self to the outsider person.
And she's sitting there feeling silly, holding his necktie, and that she can't see him to let it go. And she's had it ever since they took it off in the ambulance. And Luke proceeds to open up to her about how he kept his dad's whole hardware store. He turned it into a diner, but he kept all of his stuff on the walls. He kept the office the same. And so he's like, I get it. I see you. Like, you're Emily and you're a whole other breed of person than me. But I see, like, it's important. You're not being silly. Like, and they have this really nice, frank and open conversation, which guaranteed in other circumstances would have never, ever happened, because they're just two completely different people. I have a clip here of where this conversation leads.
What exactly is going on between the two of you?
Nothing. Really? We're friends, that's it.
You're idiots, the both of you.
I like that up to that point, they have been so honest and so open. So it's like, all right, okay, if we're being honest with each other and we're telling the truth, so tell me about you and my daughter. Yep. And it's like, not that. No. Well, as far as he knows, we're friends. Okay.
But you could tell that he wants to say something more. He's like, we're friends. That's it. Yeah. But you can see he's got something else under the surface, and he wants to say like something. But it's true. He's just telling the facts. That's not, I don't think, what he wants from the situation at all. But he can't very well tell Emily, of all people, that he's in love with Lorelai without even telling Lorelai and making a move and seeing how that goes. But I love that Emily just goes for the jugular. You're idiots.
Yeah. But the thing, I feel like I'm picking up now that how much Emily is a planner. And if she has any control of the world, then things will go her way. And her bringing up this with her and with Lorelai and Luke, and like laying the foundations of like, I'll leave you with that thought in your head. I'll leave you with this kind of conversation and this topic. Eventually, Lorelai and Rory join them, and she takes Rory off and like, oh, let's go get Ross.
Oh yeah, that was on purpose. Like, let's leave them alone together with that conversation I just had.
With that conversation, exactly. Yeah, and like, gosh, she's a little, she gets her fingers into everything.
Manipulative.
Yeah, a little manipulator.
I like how Luke doesn't try to hide away from the fact that they just kind of had that conversation, because Lorelai's like, what's going on here? And he's like, well, your mom just called me an idiot. Like, and he's honest. But then, you'd think that Lorelai would be like, well, why? And then he would say, because we're not dating or whatever, but the conversation doesn't go that way, because Luke, I actually really like this. Luke doesn't do the like jumping on the vulnerable, possibly grieving. Like, we don't know what's going on yet, but he doesn't take this as the chance, like, to capitalize on the closeness of the situation to express his feelings or whatever. He's just there to be a comfort, because instead of continuing with the thread that Emily started, he encourages Lorelai to finally go inside and see Richard. So Lorelai goes into the room and she sees him there and she's like gutted. She's having such a hard time, and he wakes up and they just have this moment looking at one another, and they both have so much emotion all over their faces. Lorelai wants to say something. She's just about to. She's like on the brink of tears, and she's just about to open her mouth to say something. And then Emily and Rory walk in and break the moment.
The build up of this scene is so good. I like that when she gets into the room, it's not the same as when we've entered the scenes and entered the room before, where like he's talking and they're reading the newspaper and there's something. We're not sure. Is he in pain? Is he sleeping? We don't know what is he feeling, because he just kind of has this unreadable expression on his face that looks like a kind of uncomfortable, slightly distressed. And she takes a good long look at him, and it's like she sees, maybe for the first time, the good man that she described, but like with everything else pulled away. She just sees the man himself there, her dad. At that point in time, it's like, well, what do you say first? What are you just going to say? You can't, like, you could just say, hey, Dad, but like you can tell that there's so much that they want to say. What do you start with? Like, does she just come say, I love you, Dad, I'm so glad you're okay? But like all of these sentences want to jump to be the first thing. And yeah, you're right. She gets cut off straight. She opens her mouth to say something, but not before they've had that like unspoken connection. They say something with their eyes. They have this look, and there's so much in there, so many things. But then, everyone comes in, and she finally cries. Yeah, because the doctor comes in. He lets everybody know that it was angina. It wasn't, a heart attack or anything like that. He's going to be fine. He needs to make some changes to his lifestyle. And so with that news, Lorelai excuses herself and then just buries herself into Luke, like sobbing. The relief and the emotion and everything, like now that it's okay, she can let it all out. Luke is standing there. He's comforting her, and he's holding a cup of coffee that he snagged from the nurse's station. Finally, because there's this whole thing about not being able to find coffee. The coffee machine's broken. And he says to her, well, you're not the only one who can flirt. When really he just like went into the nurse's station and like took a cup of coffee. Yeah, exactly. The door was open.
Yeah.
I like that while she is like buried in him and crying, he mentions the classic movie thing of like, typically I'd have a handkerchief. I'd give you my handkerchief in this moment. And it's such a Lorelai fantasy thing. She loves those classic movies. That she loves them so much. And that absolutely would be the romantic hero thing to do. And I love that Luke knows that. But then points out, like, I kind of find that a bit disgusting.
And I still like that he's seeing it and expressing it in the like boy girl moment. Like, because he still puts himself as the like, I'm the man and you're the woman and you're here crying on me. He's not shying away from implying that there is still a certain romance to the situation. So I really like that he's not just being like, oh, gotta be stoic and robotic and like not say things like that. And so I really like that. From there, we have answers. We know what's going on. So Lorelai says, Luke, please drive Rory home. Rory, go talk mushy to Dean. Go home. Talk for an hour about who's going to hang up first. And off they go. And Lorelai wants to stay and be helpful. So she hasn't really had a reconciliation with her mom yet. And they have it without really saying anything. Like, they don't address it. They just kind of bury it and move along, because Lorelai's like, well, I'm staying. And Emily's surprised. She's like, what do you mean you're staying? She's like, well, if somebody needs something, I'm going to be here. not you. You won't need anything because, Emily,
Yeah.
heaven forbid, would need something, and especially not from Lorelai. But she's like, if somebody needs something, I'm going to be the one to do it. I'm going to be the one to get it. I'm staying. And then that is what Emily needs to know, is that Lorelai is invested in the family and is committed to being there for them.
Exactly. Yeah, because this whole episode through, she's been like, oh, well, Lorelai's always, of course, she's too busy for us. And of course, she won't come to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. All these assumptions that are just totally unfounded.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And now she's seeing exactly who Lorelai is, and that the thing is, she is going to stick around. She is going to be here. Like, of course I'm going to be here, Mom. What do you... And I just love that they go to the cafeteria. Like, hospital cafeterias as places to, like... They're such awkward and uncomfortable settings, but I feel like anyone who has had to spend much time at a hospital for any reason, that cafeteria can be a place of just for like 10 minutes, set aside the worries that we're having. We can just sit and eat, nourish ourselves.
Thus ends the hospital scenes. And we finish the episode with Lorelai going to Luke's, must be a couple days later, and she brings him a gift of a new hat. So she wants to say thank you. It's a Christmas gift. It's a thank you gift. It's like all of the above. He's closing up for the night. There's nobody else in the diner. And it's just the two of them. And she gives him this hat. She starts with saying, if something ever happens to that one. But he doesn't wait for that. He immediately takes it off. He's like, new hat from Lorelai. Put it on. This is my hat now. And so she goes to put it on his head and she puts it forward facing. And she's like, oh God, no, that is weird. That is not right at all. And the intimacy of this scene where she's the one putting the hat on him. It's like such a small, seemingly small gesture, but it's so charged because we know that they're so into each other. But again, he doesn't make a move. He doesn't do anything, and he just lets her do it. She puts the hat on him. It looks great. And then she wants to see the rehearsal for like the pageant and all of that. So she's asking him to turn off the lights, and he's like getting after for it. He's like, it's the same thing every year. It's the same people. Like, why do we need to watch this while also turning the lights off? Like he
yeah.
He needs to get his 2 cents in. He needs to be Luke and curmudgeonly about it. But he wants to give in to Lorelai's whims and her fantasies and all of that.
You can tell how much he just enjoys every step of it. Every bit. Like he doesn't have to press for more or make a move or do anything. He is enjoying every moment that he gets to be beside her, across from her, talking to her, teasing her, having a heart-to-heart with her. Every single moment. You can tell how much he values that. And like, it doesn't matter. We don't have to be making out like fools right now. We can be... But
I want them to be.
I know. Well, that's what fan fiction is for. Slow burn.
Specifically season 1. Season 1 fanfic. Okay.
Slow burn. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean now.
Yeah. So they have this like cozy moment with the lights off, just the two of them in the diner watching the rehearsal for the pageant, and no kissing happens. The end.
Beautiful scene. This honestly, like, kudos to them for delving into that sort of part of relationships and roles, family roles and things, especially for this early in a series. Like we're just about not even halfway through the first season of this show, and already we're going there. We're going to those depths. This hit a lot of really soft and tender spots for me personally, but I really appreciate how they did handle it. And you can tell that they're the people who are writing these scripts, the actors, everybody. You can feel the amount of respect they all have for these very realistic real life moments. That yes, they have a show that is very lighthearted most of the time and silly and quirky and fantastical as well and like idealistic, but when they need to do the reality, real world heavy stuff, they really respect that. And lots of heavy stuff we covered today, hey?
Lots of stuff. And so that's us for the week. Christmas stuff is going away again.
That's us. Yep. I've been Jenny. She's been Lisa. We've been the Belladonna Watch Club. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Stick around. Catch us next week on YouTube and wherever you stream your podcasts.
And be sure to like and subscribe if you want more.
All right. So we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.